Hey, do you need wallpaper? Go to wallpaperboulevard.com. Give them my name, tell them Spencer Colgan sent you, and they'll be sure to give you 10% off at checkout. Check it out, tell them I said hello. They have a tremendous selection. Don't shop anywhere else until you've checked out www.wallpaperboulevard.com. Hey, this is Spencer Colgan and welcome back to my channel. You want to hang grass cloth. If there's one wall covering that a lot of homeowners like to hang themselves, it's grass cloth for some reason. And I would say that of all the wall coverings I install, grass cloth is one of the most difficult, while on the other hand, in many ways, it's one of the easiest. Once you know how to handle the grass cloth, and once you know how to apply it to the wall, the rest is easy. Here's why. It's not paper. There's no bubbles to deal with. There's no blistering. The seams will always lay down. For that reason, it's a hanger's joy to get a grass cloth installation. Now, one of the problems with grass cloth is that while you're a professional, sometimes your customers don't understand that every seam is going to be visible. Not only that, each panel will have its own life, meaning one panel will be a little lighter, the next panel might be a little darker or a little lighter. And so if you're an installer, you plan your layout with all of the sheets so that they look well blended. And so you may have to put the panels out on your table or a floor with the daylight at its height so that you can see the best case scenario when all the light is coming in. How do the panels look up against each other? You may want to flip one over or move. If you had A, B, C, and D panels, you may want to move B over to D and D over to A and A over to B. You know what I mean, to make it look well blended. So let's get on with a couple of tips and tricks for this installation. We're going to be doing this on a very small wall that you see behind me. And we're going to try to make this video as short as possible. This is the product from York. It's actually black wall covering. And as you can see, it's not completely black because it has the stitching, which is clearly lighter than the dark. So, and the seams are going to show a light edge, okay? The tools we're going to need for this installation are hard smoothers. This will be used to cut the wall covering on the bottom and at the top. But this tool, which is our brush, is going to be used for laying out the wall covering. And if you have a friend named Phil Beckwith, maybe you would have one of these too. Okay? Right from the UK. Love it. A couple of blades. These are retractable blades, stainless steel. This one. And this obviously is not stainless steel. Either one of them will work for this installation. Okay, I just opened the wall covering. All I did was this. And I already have the color on my hand. The reason I show you that is don't overhandle your grass cloth, okay? Just by taking this off, you can make light marks where I'm handling it right now. If you're not careful, you can make light marks. So you want to be very careful that your hands are perfectly clean. You wash them in the sink and that you have nothing on your hands that is going to make your hand stick to this wall covering because you will remove the color and when you're far away, you'll see it. Okay, the instructions are meant to be read. That goes without saying, but we always read these as hangers and we get right down to business. Let's talk about measuring for wall covering. Now, grass cloth wall covering is typically 36 inches wide and typically 24 feet long. Now, if we just go to the end of the wall and measure 36, take our tape measure, 36, So for a general layout, 36. The lady only wants it up to this edge. So now here's the thing. If we're gonna do this according to the textbook, you want your seams, this is an entrance wall. You want your seams symmetrically placed. If that's the edge and that's the edge, here's what you want. You want an even number of seams evenly placed. How do you do that? It's a little calculation. Do you understand why? Your Grasscloth seams are visible, which means each panel has its own character. If my first panel ends here, and my second panel ends here, and my third panel goes over to here, that's a major mistake. Because if I can see my panels, just right now, look at the light coming in. You see this one, how far away it's from here? Look at that one, how close it's to that edge. How does that look? That doesn't look good, does it? That's my point. So, we want to start in the middle. Let me explain. Okay, so how do we measure for Grasscloth? Real quick, if you're doing an accent wall, what I'm about to show you is extremely important to follow. But if you're doing a whole room, your seams are going to fall where they fall, despite your best efforts to put them in the place most strategically advantageous to yourself. You never want to strip a wall covering this far away from a corner, but it may happen when all other things are considered. So there are some general rules to follow when you're doing your layout, or what's called engineering the room. It's very simple. We know that we're going to see our seams. So we want our panels to be evenly spaced on this wall in order that the panels appear to be even. The human mind picks up on a lack of symmetry. Are you the type of person who goes into the room and notices this? This doesn't bother you, but this does. And you're just the type of person that wants to go over and straighten out that picture? That's me. And it's probably you. So, when we measure for wall covering, any wall covering, we want to make sure that the seams lie in the right place. This rule is accentuated when dealing with Grasscloth because you can see the panels. For wall coverings that are not Grasscloth, it is the pattern we want to be symmetrical. We're not going to see the seams. So if you have big balloons on the wall covering, you want to take into mind where those big balloons are seen visually. But for Grasscloth, on a focal wall, and that's what we're going to call it, a focal wall, 6 feet from the door, you want evenness. Here's a rule you'll never forget. Take a measurement of the wall from left to right. What's your number? In our case, it's 104 inches wide. Half of that is 52. This is my center. Keep that in mind. My wallpaper width is 36 inches. In order to find out where my seams will lie, I have to take the total number of inches and divide that number by the number of inches of my roll. In our case, 104 divided by 36 equals 3. That means 3 sheets of wall cover. Not a lot of wallpaper. It is when you gotta replace it. It's not cheap. 3 sheets. You might say, so what? What's the big deal? I gotta tell you a secret. Anybody can hang this. If you're watching this, you already can hang it. If you took the effort to go on, you can hang this stuff. But you may mess up by putting the seams in the wrong place. A lot of people can hang wallpaper, but not everybody has the knowledge about this issue with engineering the wall. Let's say our number were 4. What's the difference between 3 and 4 besides 1? 3 is odd and 4 is even. Here's a secret. If after you divide your number is even, the layout is going to be dead in the middle. The edge of your first sheet is going to go up against the middle. The edge of your second sheet is going right up against the middle. If your number is even, if it's odd, as in the case of our video here, your first sheet, center, so I have a sheet, I have a center, the center of my first sheet is going to go on the center point of my wall. So, that's where my first sheet will go. If my number after dividing is odd. If it's even, if it's odd, let's start hanging. Now, if you're working on texture, Grasscloth will cover this without an issue. This is mild. Now, let's discuss sealing it. If you hang wallpaper on this and you don't seal this, you will destroy this. You'll destroy the wall when they take down the wall covering. So, I highly recommend that you seal the pores. If you go closer and closer and closer, eventually you'll see little craters, and they are called pores, P-O-R-E-S, and they need to be sealed. And I would recommend guards, G-A-R-D-Z, for this, or you can use 999 to seal this. There are other things you can use, because when a paper hanger goes to a store and can't get his wall preparation materials because they're out of stock, he goes to plan B and plan C. So I just gave you two name brand products that are accessible in most places in the continental USA. Okay? Guards and 999. Okay, so let's talk about hanging and reversing. There's no pattern match with Grasscloth. But here's the thing, just take a look at this pattern. Through the camera, it should look that the pattern matches the color, shading is completely the same. Of course, there are the light areas here, and here, these lines, etc. For the purposes of the video, I'm going to refer to the left side of the sheet as A and the right side as B, so I can explain why we reverse them. If during manufacturing the color is applied to the wall covering, let's think of it as if the color lives on the wallpaper. If the left side lives on section A and the right side of the color lives on section B, it's because when it was made, the color was applied on the whole sheet, and we have an A side and a B side. It looks all the same, right? But it's not. The B side is always a little different. You see, the A side is the left side. The B side gets the color applied at a different time, from a different angle. The consequence is something called shading or paneling. Google it, and you'll see that when one sheet is put up against another from the same roll, it looks very different. I'm going to explain that. Just think of the A and the B living in two different parts of the wall covering. Let's go to the wall. Here's my full panel right here. I have my A side and my B side. But when I cut the wall covering, I still have my A side and my B side, right? But if I take this sheet and hang it next to the first sheet, my A side is going to be against my B side. Unless I take my second sheet and turn it upside down. In which case, when I flip it, my B side will be against my original B side. And the colors that lived together when it was manufactured will be rejoined. The third sheet will be back to straight up and down. The top left will be A, the top right will be B. And after I have flipped it, the second sheet, there won't be any need to flip the third sheet because it should match. So every other sheet is flipped so that A side can live with the A and the B side can live with the B. That's where they came from, and that's why we reverse it, so that the color pattern variance is reduced. you're already going to see the seam because it's grass cloth. But we want to minimize or completely eliminate the effect called paneling by reversing every other sheet to rejoin the colors that lived on the same side together when the entire roll was made. Here's the thing. When you go to the next roll, it doesn't matter. Start again with A and B. You're going to see color variances. And if you're a paper hanger, if you don't do this, your customer's going to be unhappy. You got to let them know what's going on. Okay, see you on the next frame. To make sure that you don't get confused, always label your top. And if this is your top, that's going to be your A side. And this will be the right side of it, which will be B. Pasting your grass cloth. If you get paste on the front of your grass cloth, throw it out. Or hide that piece behind a bed. You can pull this through a pasting machine. But if you don't have a pasting machine, you want to use the roller at a 45-degree angle from the edge. Just follow me. I'm using my roller is hitting the edge at a 45. Can anybody figure out why we do that? By using the roller at a 45-degree angle, my roller is prevented from rolling paste on the good side of the wall covering. In other words, when I come to the edge, my roller doesn't do this because it's supported on the table because I have it on an angle. If I were to do this improperly, I would do it like this and fall off the cliff and paste. Look at all the glue that fell on the edge there. That glue would get on the other side. So you want to hold it on 45 so that your roller is disinclined to touch the other side. Okay, I'll see you on the next frame. As I finish up the top here, you'll notice that my bottom, I folded while we were off camera. And why did I do that? Because I have to do something called booking. When you close a book, you close pages on top of the adjoining pages. Well, the same thing with wall covering. We're now going to book the product. And that simply means that I put the glue side against the glue side for a period of time. And if you look at the edge, as long as one of the edges is aligned properly, the other edge will be. If my left side is plumb, my right side is plumb. Is that right? So now I have glue side on glue side. And this process will allow the paper on the backing to absorb the moisture from the paste and expand. If you don't do it and you put the wall covering on the wall after not letting it book long enough or not letting it book at all, what will happen is your wall covering will still expand, but it will do it on the wall and give you buckles in the wallpaper. And if you let the wallpaper dry like that, it's a failed installation. You have to take it down. So to prevent that, although we can't see it, our wall covering is now expanding slightly. And that's why we're letting the air go out of the backing and into the air as our moisture infiltrates the dry fibers of the backing, displacing the air. That's what bubbles are. Okay, I'll see you on the next one. So half of our wall covering is marked. It's a 36-inch wide wall covering. The 18-inch mark, which is half, is marked here. After the booking process, that line will be put at the center point of the wall. You remember our quotient was 3 sheets. Because the number of sheets is odd, the center of the first sheet goes on the center line of the wall. That'll give us an even layout to the left and to the right of the first sheet. Now, do you have to really hang the first sheet in the middle? No. You could simply put lines where the edge of the first sheet will go and work yourself back to a more comfortable place, if it is more comfortable to start on the left. You don't have to start hanging in the middle, but you must plan from the middle. I'm going to hang from the middle. I'll see you on the next frame when we're ready. Okay, so I put a laser on the center. And I'm going to take the mark from the center of the wallpaper and make sure that it's on the center. Okay? And then what I did was I made a mark 18 inches away from the center. Because after I hang it, I block the mark. The only way for me to know if it's straight is if the edge is on the 18th inch mark away from the center. Remember, my sheet is 36 inches wide. From the center, my first edge is 18 inches away. So, I want to make sure that my first sheet is on that line. Okay, hold on. Okay. I don't need my laser on the center as I'm hanging. I'm simply going to move it over to, I got too many lines here. Is this the center? Okay. And put it on here. And there I go. That is my center. And now, let's hang it. Handling Grasscloth is a little tricky. You don't want it touching the wall. It picks up dirt and dust very quickly. Notice how I'm not using my fingers to touch it, because My fingers have paste on them. Now my edge is established. On the next frame, we're going to flesh out or lay out the wall covering to get out all of the air. See on the next frame. I'm going to start in the center and trying not to make marks on my wall covering. I'm going to start in the middle, go down, just like the way a Christmas tree is. See, it's a soft bristle brush. So we're not going to make any marks with our fingers. I've had fingerprints on my wall covering because my fingers get sticky and the color comes right off. So we're not doing that. I start in the center. And I want to push out all of the air. Okay. There's always something. Now remember in the beginning, I said we needed that smoother. We're just going to take our smoother so that we can make a nice cut at the top. So now, I only want to touch the top. Okay? Take my knife. Can they see this? Come close. Oh, okay. I'm going to put it right in the corner and just trim hard enough to cut through the grass cloth and the backing. Okay. I'll push my wall covering down at the top. Okay. We do the same thing at the bottom. Just coming quick, a lot of people ask me on my most popular video, you didn't trim the wallpaper. Well, this is how you do it. The blade goes in front of the smoother. You just pull it back. Now show them the first piece. Show them the first piece. And that's how you do it. I'll see you on the next frame. That's it. On our second sheet, this part was rolled out from the roll. Now you would consider this the top of the sheet. And for reference in this video, when you pull the paper out, the piece that's in your hand is the top. But remember, we're reversing the sheet. Because this is the top, we're going to hang this at the bottom of this sheet. And so our reversal will come into play. So we're going to put a big B here for bottom. Because when you're hanging multiple sheets, you say, is this the top or the bottom? You got to label it. Okay, I'll see you on the next one. When you're hand applying your paste to the back of your grass cloth, you want to use the light and that shine to make sure you got everywhere. Sometimes you'll see a big bald spot, okay? Secondly, we remember bottom, and when you're hanging paper, you want to take the bottom, flap it over to here, put it under here. Why is that? Because if this is on top, you'll remember more easily, that's your top. Take a look at the backing. It's just paper. If we don't let this book sufficiently, this material will not get sufficiently wet, saturated actually, and it won't expand properly. But it will do that. See that? It's expansion. It'll do that on your wall, and you'll have buckles. Now with grass cloth, you don't want to be creasing this stuff. See that? You don't want a sharp crease in it. Okay? Now if your grass cloth bends on its own, that's one thing. But generally, you don't want this part flat. You want to leave that open. Okay. The reason why we don't use this on grass cloth is that when we do, we mar the grass cloth. Let's show them the grass cloth, how it looks where we just did that. Can we get it from this angle? Here, bring it over here. Let them see. They can see. You see that mark there? What you do is you bruise the fabric. So you may think that a couple of swipes isn't gonna do anything, but the more you do it, the more shiny you make it. You've actually flattened out the material where you rubbed it. And where you didn't rub it, it's a different pile. Did you ever run your hand over your carpet and you see it's dark? Or a dog walks in, or a person walks in on a carpet and you can see their footprints? They're changing the light reflection on the carpeting because they stepped on the pile and they brought it down. They've also changed the angle at which the pile is reflecting light. When your grass cloth, doesn't happen with paper, but when you have this material and there are threads through this, when you burn it or burnish it, you're changing the light reflection on the material because you compressed it and you also bruised it. You don't want to use hard objects on grass cloth. Okay, let's hang the sheet. So the second sheet, if you've never hung before, you get a helper down at the bottom so that when you open the sheet and it falls to the floor, you don't have this sheet touching this one. If you don't have another person, get yourself masking paper and put a piece of tape here I would use a hand masker, but you don't have one if you're never hung before. No big deal. Take 2-inch blue tape, put it right on the edge, and when you drop your sheet, when you're up there, make sure you do it far enough away from this sheet that they will never touch. And then carefully bring the sheet over to your seam and push it against the wall. When you have your sheet against the wall, then you go up and you fix it. Let's come in close. We're going to close in our seam. 2 hands clean. Clean. Push it in. You can push hard on this, but don't slide your hands on it. You're going to burnish the material. I'll go get my brush. That should be on me, but it's not. My cameraman is following me around, which is okay. Don't worry about pushing glue out, because you've taken Spencer Colgan's step-by-step process and you didn't put a lot of glue on the edge. So if you push hard on this, you're not going to be pushing glue out. With an open hand, I'm pushing and I'm patting. I'm not rubbing. Pat, pat, pat. Now I take my brush, make sure there's no glue on it. Back and forth. I have a question for Phil Beckwith, and that is, what happens when my bristles from my brush get into my grass cloth? What do I do, Phil? We come down here and we see that we need, coming close, that we need to push it in just to bring those seams together. Now watch this. I hold it there, watch this now. What am I doing? I'm preventing the sheet from sliding back away from the adjoining sheet. I'm locking it down, I'm making it stick. So I hold it here and until I can get to my brush. Now on previous videos I told you I don't like using these, but on Grasscloth it's a must. If you're an amateur, you go ahead and use this and you're going to mark this all up, especially over your seams. If you want to see a new person hang Grasscloth, you'll see this will all be shiny. If this is anything, it's the manufacturer, it's not you. Use the brush nice and easy. And don't kill it. You don't need this mashed all the way in. The paste is now on the wall, and it's on the wall covering, and it's making one. Now, we take our blade again, just like we did before. Come in close. I take my blade, I put it right on the outside of my smoother. Do it again. Go in the opposite direction. Now watch when I get to the end. Watch what I do. I'm going to go fast because I don't want the wallpaper going up. I don't want to make my cut going up, so I make it down so I don't trim off too much. So I want it longer. I'm going to show you how to trim the edge off when we get there. Okay, let's hang the last sheet and be done with this install. How's that? I'll see you on the next frame. Now, when we go to trim our wall covering against this corner, we're going to use a breakaway blade. We're going to extend that shaft far out. so that we can get a nice cut, a nice even cut. But here's the thing. We're going to mark up this side of the wall. It's just a necessary consequence. Can't do it. We need this wall as our guide. So as we go up against this wall here, our blade is going to rub up against there, make a black mark. But this corner right here at the point is going to be sharp. So make sure you have touch-up paint to paint the wall with a foam roller or a brush right after you're done. We'll bring them in here. When you're doing grass cloth, get yourself microfiber cloths. So now if you look at the end of this sheet, you'll see the same overlap as you would on the last sheet. Both sides should have the same overlap. Okay, where is my smoother? I just need to get my smoother. Just show them the install so far, just show them up and down. So far, so good. Now, come in on this side, come in close. This is a tricky bit right here. Come in close. This is an outlet, a socket. I'm feeling for it. The end of it is there. I'm just gonna slice there. I'm gonna get the bottom. Slice that. Okay. Just show them the overlap over here. Go on this side of the wall. They'll know from my video at the end of the last frame, this is our overlap. Okay, let's come in on this side. I take my smoother. I'm doing the same thing again, real nice and quick. Make it nice and sharp. Now, if you want to wipe off the paste, guard your grass cloth with something so that your wet rag doesn't touch your grass cloth. Okay. That's really all there is to it. If you're still with me, go for it. I think you can do this. Okay. Now, if you at home don't have this expensive brush, let me give you an alternative. Get yourself a nice roller. One that's never been used before. Make sure you don't make this touch your grass cloth. And just do this. Go according to the fabric. It's running horizontal, so I am too. You don't need a fancy tool. and you do it every step of the way. Okay, I'll see you on the next frame for the final. Okay, come on this side, please. So I'm going to take my extended blade. I'm holding my wall covering down. I slice. Don't try to be Mr. Precise. You want to come into the wall covering and the corner. Now, watch this. 2 hands. Look at this. You're relying on the corner. You're using the corner as a tool. Make no mistake about it. That's why it's going to get, there's a casualty. You're going to cut it up. Now, I'm going to go up this way. They can see my hand is blocking a little bit, but you'll get the idea. One hand is holding that wall covering out of the way. The other is cutting it using the wall as a guide. And so now, if the cameraman goes on the other side, they'll see what's going on the other side. Okay? I'm holding it, and I got it real tight. I'm holding it tight so it doesn't get in the way. Okay. At the end, I pull my wall covering up rather than cut up against the trim. Now, Now, we're going to do the same thing for the other side, and we'll wrap it up shortly. See you on the next one. Now, you remember we're going to be cutting the grass cloth right on the edge, so let me show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, I want to show you what happens if your blade runs off as you're trimming the edge. Let's show them what happened here. Come on this side. Don't block the laser. Can they see? Come over here. You see how this sticks out? Can you see in the camera how that sticks out? In other words, my blade jumped off of the wall. And so now I have an ugly protrusion. So I'm going to simulate the wall with this knife. And with a sharp blade, I'm going to just trim it. Okay, and now my edge is sharp. That's it. Let's dress up the wall and be done with it. So there you have it. As I said in the beginning, you enter the room and you see that our wall, this is our focal wall, the center of that picture is in the center of the middle sheet. And we have our seams, which I told you would be visible. Not terribly visible, but they're panels. And so if you folks are hanging this for the first time, you'll know that Grasscloth seams are visible. And that is our beautiful installation. There you have it. What do you think, folks? Do you like it? If so, let me know. How do you hang your Grasscloth? Thanks for watching my video. So this is our product. It's a York Grasscloth. And these instructions apply for all three of these types. Okay.